Welcome to another edition of Comics Recollected. This is Siskoid of Siskoid's Blog of Geekery. And as usual, we're going back in time to the old spinner racks of the early 80s and looking at what comics I might have bought, read, and collected back then. The month we're looking at is December 1983, and I didn't get very many comics from that month, I must say. Probably because I got quite a few in November, so I might have been strapped for cash, and Christmas money hadn't come in, obviously. I do remember some comics that were on the stands, like the Superman and Santa Claus team up, which I never got, but you know, I was so serious back then. You know, when you're a 12-year-old buying comics, you can't abide silliness, I suppose. Although I did buy some Captain Carrot issues, and but Superman and Santa Claus seemed a bit far out. Obviously, I've picked up that issue since. So let's look at what I actually picked up. First up, Fury of Firestorm number 21. It's the second part and finale of his third ever altercation with Killer Frost, arguably one of his topmost rogues in his gallery, and really the last appearance and death of the original Killer Frost, although the next Killer Frost will be almost exactly the same, except have a different secret identity. In how she dies is pretty interesting because she's always looking for heat. She has cold powers, but she must absorb heat from people, usually men, and she's kind of Catwoman to the kissing villain, if you will. She's Catwoman to Firestorm, but she's really the one she's in love with is Martin Stein. I think he's an old boyfriend or something. But what I remember from this issue is that she's becoming a hag in this. She's becoming really old. She's getting older by the second, and Firestorm just gives in. He gives her his heat, and he has so much heat that she evaporates. She completely disappears from the page. So it's kind of a strange, I guess it's a strange sexual thing in a way, or she's consumed in that act. So an issue I remember fondly. I was buying Justice League of America intermittently at this point, and number 224 is actually my third issue. And I have this in common with Rob Kelly of the Aquaman Shrine. He bought the exact same first two issues I did, and then this one third for some reason. So, but it's a cool done-in-one story about this villain called Paragon, which was never seen again, unfortunately. Well, maybe maybe the gimmick couldn't have lasted more than once. His power is actually that of taking on the powers of everyone around him, powers and skills of any superhero around him or person around him, but just one step better. So he's better than anyone he meets. He's stronger than Superman. He's a better fighter than Black Canary. I don't think he can mimic mechanical powers. So he doesn't have Red Tornado's powers, or he's not a little bit more emo than Red Tornado, not a little more pathetic than Red Tornado. But everybody else, he steals their powers, poaches their abilities, and I guess it's an early story by Kurt Busiek. I hadn't realized, but it's totally in his vein because it's got this kind of hopeful superhero message about teamwork, because Paragon is better than anyone, but he may not be better than everyone combined. So when they start teaming up and using their using teamwork, they can actually beat this sucker. So very nice art as well from Chuck Patton, inks by Dick Giordano, fondly remembered. But this is the comic of the month. It's the one I most reread, that's most vivid in my mind. Uncanny XMen number 179. I even wrote a post about it. The link should be below this video. Kitty Pryde gets married to Caliban, or almost. It's a shotgun wedding. Last we saw her in the previous issue, she was bleeding out in the street, and the Morlocks, who live in the sewers, ugly mutants, mutant aberrations that live in the sewers of New York, picked her up, and I guess Caliban's in love with her, or she's the prettiest thing he's ever seen, and they get hitched. She's got a nice wedding dress they found in the trash, and then the X-Men, of course, have to come in and rescue her from this fate. Although, maybe Caliban charms her a little bit. So I won't spoil it here, but the whole tale is told on my blog, as you'll be able to read it. Really beautiful art, John Romita Jr., Chris Claremont, of course, writing the story, and I think the reason this is so vivid to me is because, one, Kitty Pryde quickly became my favorite character. She was close to my age. I was probably she was 16 at this point, and I was 12, so maybe I wasn't that age yet, but when I reread the comic often, well, obviously, eventually I reached that point where I was 15, 16, and had a crush on her. So there's that. But there's this one place where Mask, who is a Morlock with the mutant power to change, he's got like a plastic surgery touch, so he can mold people's faces with his hands. And he's changing her face. He's toying with her because she's so pretty and they're all so ugly. So he or she, I guess Mask is a woman, isn't she? Mask is just playing around with Kitty's face and gets angry and just puts her hands in Kitty's face and just scrunches it up so that it's just a big mess. It's a freakish panel and gory in its way. It shocked my young self, and I remember staring at that page often. It was that page that was so horrific to me, so horrible, and yet I couldn't take my eyes off of it. So again, this is an early comic that meant a lot to me and still does. Unlike this comic, Hercules, Prince of Power #1, first part of a 4-issue limited series, and I never got the last 3 issues, so you can see where this is going. It's a comic by Bob Layton, looks very nice. Bob Layton's a great artist, very clean. He's also doing the writing on this, but I don't really have any clear memory of getting this book, reading this book, rereading this book. I don't think it happened. I probably was interested in the mythological element, but this is Hercules in the future. Obviously he's immortal, but I don't know any of the other characters. It seems to be referencing stories about the Marvel Universe's future that I don't know anything about, and I guess it didn't really draw me in. So it all seems a little irrelevant. The other comic I tried and then didn't continue pick up is New Mutants. I got issue 14, which is actually a pretty good issue for a newbie. It's pretty new reader friendly because it's got at the start a sequence where you get to meet each of the members and what their powers are. So as someone interested in the X-Men, the New Mutants seems a natural companion book. So why didn't I continue to read it? Because I'm introduced to all these characters. They all got their mutant powers. Okay, the costumes kind of suck. It's the classic X-Men costumes from the 60s. It's pretty ordinary, but still, I don't think that's would have been a turn off. It's got a pretty good fight in it with that big demon Sin, who is coming back to get Illyana Rasputin, which the last I saw her, she was a little girl in the first X-Men comic I bought. But now she's older somehow because she spent time in limbo, blah, blah, blah. The usual X-title convolutions. During the fight, there's a couple of cool moments, like Magma creating a volcano in the X-Men's living room, and then the lava pouring out on top of the demon, stuff like that. And then later on, they're having a little party, and the volcano's still there. So, it's a fun comic. So why didn't I get the next one? Not sure, because I seem to remember I only started reading New Mutants again with number 50, maybe. So I missed a lot of probably the better issues with the Bill Sienkiewicz art and all that. I missed a lot of that. So why didn't I get the next one? I think it's those convolutions. It's the way X titles seem to be, very complex in their continuity. So if at 12 years old I got lost, then there was a good chance I wouldn't keep reading. And in this case, Illyana's age shift is bizarre. It's a standalone fight, but it's got all of that backstory with Limbo and Belasco and all that. There's also at the end, Professor X shows up and suddenly can walk again, which I think is probably because Secret Wars, that seminal maxi series, which we'll get to talk about, quite a lot in the coming video casts. That a lot of stuff happened during Secret Wars, but that took 12 months. And in the actual Marvel continuity, they didn't. It didn't all happen at the end. It all happened at the beginning. So something happened. Professor X can walk. There were a lot of changes like that. Spider-Man's black costume, blah blah. And then, you got to read 12 months of this maxi series to find out how these changes happened. So it was like a weird little. 1 year later type deal, except no time passed at all, except for the characters who were stuck on the Beyonders planet. Anyway, you see how it is. I can explain it now, but back then it was, what's this? What's happening? Why is this happening? So probably that was the turnoff, and I wouldn't pick up New Mutants again for at least 3 years. So that's what can happen. So that's it. Only 5 comics in December. Hopefully my family gave me some spending money at Christmas so that I could fill my winter days with more comics. We'll see in our next installment, which will be January 1984. And until then, please, if you want to read more geekery-related stuff, siskoid.blogspot.com. Plenty of comics, sci-fi, genre TV, and movies, whatever you like. RPGs, it's all there. And until next time, I'll see you in the funny papers.